In this video, I will tell you my personal story of how gardening saved me and helped me heal when I felt lost, overwhelmed, and unsure of my place in the world. This story starts many years ago on my grandmother's farm during long summer days. I didn't yet know how to appreciate all this, but back then gardening felt like a chore. Today, it feels like something that saved me from stress, from depression, and from the quiet emptiness that came after my children left home. I spent most of my childhood summers with my grandmother. At the time, I never would have described it as idyllic. It was simply where I was sent when school let out and my parents needed a break from the chaos of raising me. They would pack a small bag, drive through charming villages and splendid nature to my grandmother's small hamlet and drop me into a world that felt like it belonged to another century. My grandma's house was small, weather-worn, tucked into a quiet hamlet in the mountains of Bulgaria. The cobblestone driveway hummed under the tires as we pulled in. And before the car even stopped, I could hear the chorus of animals' greetings, the goats bleating from their pen, the chickens scratching around the yard, the dogs barking as if announcing my arrival to the whole countryside. Somewhere, inevitably, the rooster would let out a triumphant crow. My grandmother always stood on the front step, waving with both hands like she's been waiting there since dawn. She would pull me into a hug that smelled like flour and something sweet. Cinnamon rolls, honey biscuits, a pie. It was always a surprise. Her apron always dusted with something, sugar, flour. I would bury my face against her shoulder for a moment, letting the warmth of her welcome settle over me. I would pretend to be excited, but inside I was already missing the hum of air conditioners, the glow of TV screens, and the predictable comfort of city life. My grandmother's day started early, and so did mine by default. The rooster made sure of that. Breakfast was always something fresh. Eggs just gathered from the coop. Cheese made from snowflakes milk, our white and very playful gold. Freshly baked bread in a small bowl of honey. My grandmother would call it sunshine in a bowl. Fresh fruit and vegetables from the garden. She would talk about the weather, the crops, the neighbors, and I would nod along, still half asleep, wishing for a bowl of cereal and a cartoon marathon. My grandmothers believed gardening built character. She would hand me a pair of gloves and a little trowel and lead me out to the garden like we were embarking on a noble mission. Rows and rows of plants stretched out in front of us. Tomatoes, beans, cucumbers, herbs, flowers, all thriving under her care. I hated everything about it. The dirt that clung to my skin no matter how hard I tried to avoid it. The bugs that leaped out of nowhere. The worms that wriggled like they were daring me to scream. And the bees were my personal nightmare. My grandmother would say, "They won't hurt you if you leave them alone." But I didn't trust anything that buzzed and had a stinger. While she knelt comfortably in the soil, humming to herself, I hovered stiffly about the ground, poking half-heartedly all weeds and flinching every time something moved. She would laugh softly and say, "You will appreciate this one day." I didn't believe her for a second. But the farm wasn't all dirt and terror. There were moments, small ones, quiet ones, that slipped past my resistance and settled somewhere deeper. There was an oak tree behind the barn, enormous and steady, its branches spreading wide like open arms, the kind of tree that seemed older than memory itself. A wooden swing would hang there on the branches like an invitation. I would spend hours on that swing, drifting back and forth beneath the cool shade of the rustling leaves. My grandmother would bring me lemonade in a sweating glass, the ice cubes clinking like tiny bells. For a few minutes, the world felt perfect. Those afternoons felt suspended in time, a quiet pocket of childhood where nothing existed except the creak of the rope, the whisper of the branches, and the soft rhythm of my own thoughts. Evenings were my favorite. The nights on the farm had a way of settling over everything like a soft blanket, warm and gentle, the kind of warmth that clings to your skin long after the sun has slipped away. The sky was vast, endless stretch of darkness, scattered with stars. Not just a handful like in the city, but thousands, shimmering as if someone had dusted the whole sky with silver. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. Not urgently, just a single, lazy announcement that he was still keeping watch. My grandmother and I would sit on the porch, her knitting needles clicking softly. She would tell me stories about her own childhood. Adventures that sounded impossible, wild and magical. I would lean against her, half listening, half dreaming. But life has a way of reshaping things. The farm visits became less frequent as I got older. Life got busier. I got my own family, children. There was no time to visit the farm and my grandma. Before we moved to Canada, I visited my grandmother. She sat with me on the porch, her hands thinner, her voice softer. It was a goodbye. I didn't know what to say. I just held her hand. That was the last time I saw her. Life can swell into a kind of constant motion when you're trying to settle into a new place, build a career, and raise a family. Days folding into nights in a blur of working, planning, and tending to everyone's needs, leaving little room for the carefree pauses I once took for granted. In the midst of all that motion, time moved faster than I realized. The kids grew up, leaving the house quieter than it had ever been. Suddenly, I found myself with more hours in the day than I knew what to do with, a kind of stillness I hadn't felt in decades. The memories of my grandmother's garden began returning with an intensity I never expected, reminding me of a life I didn't know I missed and loved. Funny how the places we once tried to escape become the ones we carry with us the longest. When I finally started my own garden, it wasn't just about growing tomatoes or tending to flowers. It was about creating a space where all those old feelings from my grandmother's farm could rise gently to the surface. Being out there, hands in the soil, or simply sitting among the plants brings a kind of calm I didn't know I was missing. The garden lowers my stress, softens the edges of my worries, and lifts the heaviness that sometimes settles on me. It gives me a place where my mind can slow down, where the noise of the world fades into the background, and I can breathe a little easier. There is something grounding about the simple act of tending to living things. When I'm watering the beds or pulling a few weeds, I feel present in a way that's hard to find anywhere else. My thoughts stop racing. My shoulders drop. The tension I carry without noticing begins to loosen. It's as if the garden reminds my body how to relax, how to settle, how to be still. And it's not just emotional. I feel it physically too. The fresh air, the sunlight warming my skin, the gentle movement of bending, reaching, walking. Even on days when I don't do much, just stepping outside feels like a small reset. My breathing deepens, my heart rate slows, the tightness in my chest eases. It's a quiet kind of healing, the kind that sneaks up on you. There is also a sense of purpose woven into it. Watching something grow because I cared for it gives me a little spark of pride. It reminds me that I can still nurture, still care, still bring something to life with my own hands. That feeling does more for my mood than I ever expected. It lifts me out of the dullness that sometimes comes with routine and loneliness. It gives me something to look forward to each morning. And then there is the peace, that deep, steady peace that settles over me when I'm surrounded by leaves and blossoms, the soft rustle of plants in the breeze, the hum of insects going about their day, the warmth of the sun on my back. It all works together like a gentle lullaby for my nervous system. Even when I'm not doing anything, just sitting on a bench with a cup of tea, I feel my whole body unclench. The garden becomes a refuge, a place where I can let my guard down. In a way, it feels like reconnecting with a part of myself I didn't realize I'd lost. The child who once sat under the oak tree, the teenager who didn't appreciate the quiet, the adult who got swept up in responsibilities. The garden brings all those versions of me together. It gives me space to remember, to feel, to breathe. And maybe that's the greatest gift it offers, a sense of belonging, of being rooted, of finding beauty in the slow and simple moments. It is not just a hobby, it's a kind of homecoming.